Ladies and gentlemen, you know what time it is. Welcome to the 88 MPH Community Call, the call that's always jam-packed with your favorite guests and projects within the DeFi space. My name is Whipper, and I'm a crypto enthusiast and a community volunteer at 88 MPH. Today's call is going to be jam-packed with valuable information, so make sure to stay tuned all the way to the end. Today, we have the very special pleasure of hosting Chainlink, one of crypto's absolute most important projects, hands down. Before we start the call, I'd like to remind everyone here to please keep their mics muted unless they're speaking. If you have any questions or comments during the call, please feel free to toggle on and off your toggle on and off your mic as a way to sort of quote unquote raise your hand so we can give you the floor to speak. For the sake of getting more community engagement during these calls, we have changed the format to an open style discussion, so feel free to jump in with your questions or comments at any time. Just do so respectfully and make sure that someone isn't speaking. As with tradition here at 88 MPH, we will be closing the call with a $100 raffle giveaway in the form of 1 MPH. As well, we will be minting POAPs for those who join the call. So obviously we're running things a little bit different today. As you can see, we're not in the convention center, we're in the demo room. We do have a special presentation from the Chainlink team. But before we start with that presentation, I just want to open up with some quick and brief introductions. Can I start off with Anush from Chainlink? If you could please just give us a brief introduction into who you are, how you got into this space, and what is Chainlink. And then if you'd like, you can share your screen, we can get started with our demo, and then we'll switch it back to our usual format.
Sounds good. Thank you. Can you guys hear me?
Perfectly.
Awesome. Perfect. Hey, everybody. Manish Vijayaraghavan from Chainlink Labs. I got into the crypto space, I guess, initially as an investor, and then in 2016, when I was working my previous organization, or two organizations ago, I was thinking, the way we do asset management today just doesn't make a lot of sense. Dematerialization of certificates resulted in a number of centralized organizations that are required in order for these ecosystems to operate and people to actually own the assets that they've bought. And rather than having all these complex individual entities doing all this work, you could really model all this out as smart contracts. So beyond just having crypto assets or cryptocurrencies, you can eventually develop smart contracts that essentially model out the entire workflow and lifecycle of existing assets, traditional assets that we're familiar with. And that's really what got me onto this journey of getting into blockchain space in general. And I joined a fintech startup focused on creating a private machine blockchain, specifically focused on enterprise. But eventually decided it was time for me to get back into the public blockchain space, and hence why I joined Chainlink Labs.
That's awesome. That's amazing, Anush. Thank you so much. So for those who just joined us a little bit late, we do have a special presentation from the Chainlink team. Anush, if you want to go ahead and share your screen so that everyone can pop in, that'd be amazing so we can get started.
Sounds good. I'm trying to do that, but it says you can't stream into this channel.
You don't see an option to share your screen? Hang on, let me see if I can...
The icon is there, but when I go over it, when I hover over it, says you cannot stream into this channel. I'm not sure if I just need some permission or something of the sort.
Okay, yeah, just give me one quick second. For anyone else that's in the room that's a dev, if you can help to alleviate this issue as well at the same time, just for the sake of time. I know that there's a hard cap. I'd really appreciate it.
Seems like it's working.
Yeah, I gave a permission.
Perfect, thank you. All right.
Perfect. Thanks for doing that so fast, guys.
Okay.
Everyone in the Chainlink demo room, you'll notice that there's a watch stream button that you need to click. Just go ahead.
All right, Whipper, you can see my screen?
Yes.
Perfect. All right, thank you guys. So this is actually from a presentation we did from a Chainlink Tech Talk recently. But for this forum, what I'm going to do is talk through some of the basics of what we discussed in that, but also just go off script and talk more about perhaps other aspects of what we're doing at Chainlink Keepers, as well as smart contracts in general. As the first, starting this off, smart contracts have emerged as a highly secure form of digital agreements. They establish a source of cryptographic truth that all parties involved can rely on, and without having to place trust in, say, brands or centralized black box software that is more traditionally common in traditional applications. However, smart contracts still have some limitations. First being that your dApps that you're developing are really only as strong as the weakest link, which means if you need information from off-chain, you kind of have some limitations in place. In the sense that you need some way of having trust minimized, high quality data being provided on chain, which Chainlink helps solve, creating the decentralized Oracle networks that can help provide data from off chain in a drastically trust minimized mechanism, which allows for on-chain contracts to really be highly reliable in the full sense of the word and be full-formed hybrid smart contracts that are capable of taking information from off-chain and having specific on-chain computation. To expand on this, though, we really do need some more trust-minimized off-chain computation. So the second major limitation is that smart contracts are not fully automated and therefore cannot execute their own functions based on predefined conditions or time. They must be triggered from some external source. This could be a user pushing a button on a UI somewhere. It could be a DevOps team that is responsible for operational tasks, or it could be some centralized bot with a simple script running on it. It could be a cron job or some JavaScript that's running somewhere, which happens to take actions at specific during specific times or like based on some conditions. And in the end, you still have this requirement for like an externally owned account that initiates this on-chain action and must do so reliably. And the main thing here is that making something reliable in this sense can become costly. It is cumbersome, difficult to maintain. It can be risky, and it's oftentimes centralized. If I were to solve this problem for myself, I would be able to do it through some cloud solution and take on specific risks that are related to that, or I could set up my own infrastructure, which may have its own cost vectors, cost concerns, and such that I have to manage. So in the end, in order to sleep soundly at night, projects really have to invest heavily in infrastructure that meets the strict properties required for reliable automation. Or, as we've seen quite a bit, they avoid features that require time or event-based execution altogether. Lots of projects in the blockchain space try to avoid this so that we can just have purely smart contract-based applications and therefore leave everything on the outer edge of the application to simple front ends or interactions through some existing mechanisms like Etherscan or Remix and other proprietary tools that are created for this purpose. So what we tried to do is we built Chainlink Keepers to provide reliable smart contract automation as well as off-chain computation. Having witnessed these problems firsthand ourselves at Chainlink Labs and having worked with so many projects in understanding their pain points, we recognized how much of a need there is for projects to outsource their automation with a high degree of confidence that their work will get done. Some of the users we've talked to have told us stories about how they've tried to set up their own infrastructure, how it works just fine for like weeks at a time, and then suddenly something goes wrong at the wrong time of the night, and they either didn't have alerting in place or they had to put some alerting in place. Someone had to wake up, try to figure out what's going on. And even in like a model in which you can outsource it to somebody else, there's still some organization, a single organization that's responsible for taking these actions. So there's a lot of complexity that's involved in making sure that it's highly reliable, not only in terms of like just having uptime, but to actually interact with the blockchain and to do so effectively is its own set of work that is quite complicated. So as we worked through this problem, we recognized how much of a need there is for projects to outsource this automation, and that the Chainlink core node software has already been built with these properties in mind, which allow us to provide our users with a node software that can reliably interact with the blockchain, initially starting with the providing the pulling of data from off-chain and putting it on-chain. So we've been doing this for years now, and our goal is to really expand our technology to cover trust-minimized automation and off-chain computation to the entire blockchain ecosystem at large, expanding beyond what we've already done today to date, and providing small and large projects alike a simple and easy way to offload their automation needs. So with the introduction of Chainlink Keepers, we can now have smart contracts that can be automated based on time. Say, you know, you're going to have something run at 3 p.m. every single day, and it can be due to external conditions, say the completion of a sports event, or you have some new weather data that's arrived on chain, and based on this information, you want to trigger some set of other on-chain computations. Or it could be a computation based on additional information in which you determine, say, for example, a loan is currently under collateralized. So between those three, you can essentially have a combination where it's time-based, some specific conditions, and some computation you're doing, which results in the action being taken on-chain. However, this can obviously get very expensive if you were to do it entirely on-chain. And so most projects try to keep their dApps relatively simple, or have to do that investment piece, which is build out this whole off-chain infrastructure that can do a lot of work off-chain and then takes actions on-chain. So why do we, well, first, why do we build Chainlink Keepers, and then why should anyone use Chainlink Keepers? So to go over this, I want to briefly discuss 5 of the important benefits Chainlink Keepers provides. These 5 are just the top 5 that we tend to think about, but it's not necessarily the only benefits of it. And these represent some of the aspects we took into consideration when building the Keepers product, and much of it being driven by the base tenets of the product development philosophy we have here at Chainlink Labs. And so the first piece is decentralized. We want to make sure the services we provide are decentralized. So Chainlink Keepers are a decentralized network of Chainlink nodes that provide secure automation for your smart contracts. This mitigates risk around manual intervention or scripts running on centralized servers. And these keepers are run by the same node operators that currently secure billions of dollars in DeFi today. Having a decentralized system is great, but you also need to be reliable, and you need to know that the DevOps teams that are responsible for this are truly the ones you can feel comfortable relying on. I'm sorry, there's someone who's not muted. Could you please mute your mic?
Guys, please make sure that your mics are muted. If I don't see that your mic is muted, I will force mute you and you won't be able to speak. Sorry, Anush, please go ahead.
No worries, thank you for that. So the second major facet is around keeping costs low and stable. So the Chainlink Keeper network is economically incentivized to perform all registered upkeeps, not just the ones that they're interested in or the ones they believe is going to be most profitable for them. All nodes on the network, all keepers on the network are equally responsible for all upkeeps on the network. And they do not compete with one another in order to attempt getting an upkeep completed, which then results in lower and more predictable costs for your transactions. Rather than having, say, one or more keepers competing for the transaction to complete and therefore get paid for it, we have them cooperate. If they were to compete, though, as an example, you may have 2 node operators attempting to complete your transaction, and they can be monitoring the mempool to see what transactions are being posted, what gas prices have been submitted, and they can just choose to use higher and higher gas prices to outbid you, and therefore outbid the others, and therefore ends up having a cost that's higher for you. Or they may actually compete themselves to the point where the profitability is so low that they actually it's not worth it to do those transactions anymore. And so a completely open system without having to take into account these considerations may end up resulting in fewer keepers actually actively doing your work, or reducing the profitability to the point where your upkeeps may actually not be performed. The way we've structured this, though, is to use a turn-taking algorithm that ensures that no keeper has a monopoly on any registered upkeeps, and each of them takes responsibility for a different set of jobs at each turn. So say we have 100 jobs and 10 keepers. Each of them in any given turn is responsible for averaging out to about 10 upkeeps per turn. And these upkeeps rotate from keeper to keeper at the end of each turn, ensuring that all of them are being serviced and are being done so in a manner where no one keeper is responsible for a set of upkeeps permanently. The third facet was to enable off-chain computation. We want our users to get the benefits of reduced gas costs by running a lot of their computation off-chain, such that you can offload your compute-intensive tasks such as checking for conditions to the Chainlink Keeper network. And then as those conditions check, you can also pass data back for on-chain execution from this off-chain processing that is occurring on the Keeper network. And this allows you to perform just a subset of actions that are required on-chain, while performing a lot of the more gas costs, more expensive actions off-chain without incurring any gas costs. So this requires nothing more than just your Solidity code deployed on-chain, which makes the Keeper network a powerful off-chain compute infrastructure running your audited Solidity code off-chain and at essentially no cost to you other than for making sure that the Keeper network has some basic controls in place where they are running all this off-chain compute. So that's just coming down to the cost of like what you would pay for um, a cloud infrastructure rather than what you'd be doing independently if you're running something yourself. And then once the off-chain infrastructure has identified that the conditions have been met based on your logic, then it will broadcast a transaction on-chain to take actions based off of your specific Solidity code that you have running. So moving on to the fourth aspect that we considered with Chainlink Keepers, we wanted to make sure that integration with Chainlink Keepers is easy. Making your existing contract keeper compatible can be done in a matter of minutes. Creating entirely new keeper compatible contracts can be done in a matter of hours. And our documentation provides step-by-step guides on how to get set up and is continuously improving based off of user and community feedback. Having a product that is or service that's going to be highly effective for you is great, but if it takes you weeks to get up and running, and you have to worry about like various edge cases that you need to consider when setting it up, is not really a good user experience. So we've done our best to make the Keepers service relatively easy to integrate with and provide tooling for you to be able to monitor and fund your upkeeps in a relatively easy manner. And then finally, the fifth thing I want to highlight is an important property of reliable automation, which is you need to have high uptime. This is absolutely critical when you want to have your dApps functioning at all times, 24/7, and make sure your users are getting the experience they're expecting. Not only are Chainlink Keepers run by world-class DevOps teams, ones that have verifiable historical reliability even during extreme market volatility and network congestion, but the network itself has inherent failover built in as a property of the turn-taking algorithm, which then ensures your work gets done even if some keepers are down. The network continues to operate effectively, even if there are partial outages and if there's substantial congestion on the blockchain network itself. Obviously, this is a critical factor, and we need to, as we manage to create this trending algorithm to ensure, no matter what, that these different parties that are working on this network have to collaborate. But what it also does is provide this capability that is ensuring no matter what happens, your upkeep is going to get performed, even if we have massive outages, which is something we're obviously going to be monitoring for and ensuring does not occur. And this gives us a lot more comfort as well, as we can provide our clients and others the high level of service that we expect for ourselves. So diving a little bit into how the Keeper network actually works, we have essentially three main actors in the network. First, we have the client contracts. These are the Keeper compatible smart contracts that need to have external entities service their maintenance tasks. This can be a proxy wrapper of an already deployed contract, which would make it easier for upgrades in the future. It could be an updated version of an existing contract and make it Keeper compatible, or it could be a brand new contract altogether. Then we have the Keepers, which are the Chainlink nodes that execute the registered upkeeps. Each of these nodes continuously performs off-chain condition checks at every single block and then broadcasts a transaction to the blockchain as soon as conditions are met. They manage gas price selection and gas pumping as required to ensure the transactions are confirmed in a timely manner. And in the case where, say, the transaction has not been confirmed for a number of blocks, when the turn ends for a particular keeper and the next one starts, the second keeper will also make an attempt to confirm your transactions. We've chosen to go with a high-performing network to ensure that transactions are actually confirmed as quickly as possible, which provides two critical properties. One is that it's done in a timely manner, and in the long run, it actually ends up saving users in gas costs, as running this in a way where you have long wait periods, or if you have several keepers performing the same transaction, you may end up actually wasting more money doing that than you would just, say, selecting an optimal gas price. So we've optimized our software to be efficient with each network that we're deploying onto. Then the third piece is the keeper registry itself, which brings together the client contracts and the keepers and enforces the rules of the network to ensure all parties play fair and payment is provided for the work that is performed. So there's two simple parts to integrate Chainlink Keepers. The first is you have to write a smart contract that is compatible by implementing two functions, the check upkeep and the perform upkeep functions. And this essentially helps split your contract into two components, the check upkeep that is run entirely off-chain, and the perform upkeep that is run on-chain when your check upkeep returns true. So we'll dig into that a little bit in a couple of slides. You can visit our docs at docs.chain.link and read all about it and get started for yourself. The second step is to register your smart contract for upkeep with the Chainlink Keeper network. And this can be done by visiting keepers.chain.link. You can see currently registered upkeeps and you can register your own. And feel free to go ahead and test on testnet. It is auto-approved and you can go through and perform any tests you'd like to. So the next two slides are really focusing on showcasing how we're thinking of on-chain, off-chain computation. On this simpler one, what we have here is a network of keeper nodes that are constantly running and simulating your check upkeep. So your upkeep contract is then being run as an ETH call, and the check upkeep function is run. Anytime your check upkeep function returns true, we then do a rapid simulation of your perform upkeep as well, in order to ensure that the conditions have been met and your perform upkeep is going to succeed. And absolutely guarantee that, because obviously there can be condition changes between the point in time this off-chain computation happens and the on-chain transaction is confirmed. But it provides a high degree of confidence that your transaction is going to succeed. Obviously, there'll be edge cases around that we cannot prevent. Provided the upkeep is not required, then we'll just go ahead and check that same upkeep for the next block. And this is happening for every single upkeep each of the keeper node is responsible for. For any upkeep that does return true, and therefore you need to take some action on chain, the Chainlink node will then, through the keeper registry, take action on your contract and execute the perform upkeep function and pass in data from the check upkeep to your perform upkeep. So if you need to pass in some perform data, and in some use cases you do, and some use cases you do not, what this will allow you to do is say check 50 addresses for specific conditions, and then identify that 3 of them have met certain conditions. And you can say take action on these 3 addresses, and that's just an example. It could be on storage variables, it could be on anything you can think of. As long as you can put into your Solidity code, it can be done off-chain and then pass the subset of information required for on-chain execution, at which point your perform upkeep on-chain would just validate those 3 addresses and then perform the rest of its work, saving a lot in terms of gas costs. Getting a little bit more into how this actually splits up your smart contract, we now look at this as your smart contract now being cut up in a way where the check upkeep is essentially off-chain code. Your Solidity code is running off-chain on the Keeper network. Obviously, your whole contract is deployed onto the Ethereum network, and therefore they're perfectly in sync. Now, with this off-chain computation constantly running, what each of these nodes are doing is checking for the latest block. And at each block, it essentially runs as an ETH call, your check upkeep, to confirm, based on the current state of this block, have the conditions been met? Do I need to take action? And then off-chain side of it is it's running this computation rapidly to determine for all of the upkeeps that each node is responsible for currently that some condition has been met. And provided it has been met, then it'll broadcast a transaction to the network and have your perform upkeep actually take action, which results in your users getting whatever outcomes that your dApp provides them. And with that, I'll stop this presentation and we can open it up for a Q&A.
Anush, that was absolutely amazing. Thank you so much for taking the time to share that with us. If you want, you can go ahead and close your stream and we'll just head back to the demo room, the main room, and we will give our audience an opportunity just to check in and see if they have any questions. I know I have a whole bunch, but I'll just pause here real quick to see if anyone does. While we're waiting for those who have questions, I do see some people from the Chainlink community who have joined us. Thank you for joining us. McFly, maybe I could pass the mic to you real quick just to do a small introduction into who you are, what 88 MPH is for those that are joining us for the first time.
Yep. Not sure if you can hear me well because I have some issue with my internet connection where I am right now. Is it okay?
Yeah, it's coming in nice and clear. Go ahead.
Can you hear me
Did I
now?
just?
Better?
Yeah, now I can hear you.
Okay. Cool, cool. So yeah, thanks for joining everyone. Glad to have Chainlink today with us. So HSMPH, for who doesn't know what we do, we are a protocol, non-custodial, fully open source that offer fixed yield rate. So that means you can deposit, let's say, some link, or you can deposit some stable coin, and after some time you get fixed yield on your initial capital. So you can deposit link, and you earn some interest at a fixed yield rate on your link, for example. So we support a variety of crypto assets, from Bitcoin to ETH to stable coins, also link, as I said. And the second product we offer is a speculative tool where you can bet on the future yield on compound or AVE for a specific asset. So let's say you are bullish that the interest rate for link, for example, is going to be up for the following month. As everyone knows, compound and AVE offer variable rates. So you can bet on the volatility of this kind of money market and make some money if you are right. So that's the two products, fixed yield rates. So that's the main product we have, but also a secondary product where we offer this speculative tool. And under the hood, we also use Chainlink Keeper for updating our interest oracle. So that's the reason why we have Chainlink today with us. It's really useful for us to automate this kind of things we were doing manually before. So it's really, really useful for us. So yeah, that's it.
Thanks for that, McFly. Much appreciated. I'm going to pause here real quick once again just to check with the audience to see if anyone has a question based on that presentation. If not, I have a whole list of nice questions that I'd like to ask, so I'll just pause here real quick. Oh, by the way, we do have Chirag with us. I'm not sure if you want to do a small introduction on yourself before we get into the next segment.
Hey, hi everyone. I hope you can hear me. This is Chirag from Chainlink Labs. I work closely with Anush on the product marketing side for Keepers and a bunch of other decentralized services. Nice to meet everyone.
That's awesome. Do you want to talk a little bit about what brought you into crypto and your journey here?
Yeah, for sure. It's a bit of a story actually. So, from a work perspective, I spent a bunch of time in kind of the traditional tech space, working a lot with building distributed enterprise systems for enterprise software. But I was always very, very curious about blockchain technology. And I still remember I come from India, New Delhi, and I was reading this paper about blockchain on the plane from MIT and the future potential for it. And especially I could clearly see in places like in developing countries how transformative it can be with a lot of to give you an example, a lot of the land buying and selling and property contracts are still done on paper-based contracts with paper-based entities, and there is a lot of potential of fraud in that area. And with blockchain, with the immutability and verifiability and the transparency it could bring, that got me really, really curious about the potential for this technology. And then I started investing into it, and a few months back made the decision to jump into it full time with the Chainlink Labs. So super excited and interested to be here.
That's amazing. Love the story, and it's great to have you guys. So I'm wondering if we could talk a little bit about the Chainlink decentralized oral network and what decentralized services does it offer? Either one of you can take that.
Yeah, I think we could probably both talk a
you
little
go
bit
first,
more
Rod.
about it. Great, yeah. So I think we would love to, talk a little bit about, smart contracts, right? Smart contracts are great. They're kind of these digital agreements, but really they don't have an inherent capability to take in external information on or really interact with traditional systems that are outside. The way we talk about them is they're like computers, but without the internet. So with oracles, what oracles do provide you is kind of a middleware that connects blockchain to outside world. And with a decentralized Oracle network, what we are able to really provide you is kind of a very secure way to bring that data into smart contracts. Because what we really want to avoid is a single point of failure. Because in a centralized Oracle, you do introduce kind of that single point of feed or data that comes in, and that is one of the key reasons and value propositions of decentralized Oracle networks. From a services perspective, yeah, I would love to have Anush kind of talk about some of our decentralized services.
Sure, yeah. So we have, I think generally speaking, there's been a broad recognition that there's a lot of value in having decentralized Oracle networks to reduce the risk of malicious actors as like single node operators, or having perhaps one of the important intermediaries required for your dApps to function correctly that could cause downtime or potentially even outages that could result in other actors taking advantage of your applications. So in building out this decentralized Oracle network, what we're really doing is creating this opportunity for tamper-proof inputs and outputs, and arbitrary computation that will allow for your smart contracts to be more functional and be hybrid smart contracts. And so far, we've seen a number of different applications in which it makes sense to do this in terms of services that Chainlink is helping build. First would be the data feeds themselves, either whether it be from a request for a particular data model or a set of feeds that are consistently updated based off of thresholds and variations or heartbeats, and ensuring that the data on chain is as up to date as it can be, which can then be relied on by DeFi to take several different actions. We also have expansions in terms of providing verifiable randomness so that we can have fairness in outcomes within smart contracts. Trying to build something like that directly within your smart contracts is a bit fraught with potential ways in which you can make mistakes, ways in which users can take advantage of your applications, and ways in which miners can extract value by perhaps pushing for one direction or other that benefits them, and therefore be able to take advantage of your randomness. Depending on the kind of work you're doing and the kind of value you're securing, you may be potentially attacked by some party on the blockchain. And trying to provide this in a trust minimized manner is critical, which is an important aspect of these decentralized Oracle networks. We are not relying on just, say, one party or another party. In the applications we develop, we need to make sure that there are ways in which you can confirm on-chain that what is happening is absolutely correct. So with verifiable randomness, we have on-chain smart contracts through which users can request randomness information, random numbers, random words, which they can then use to perform all sorts of tasks that result in, say, an NFT being minted with a unique set of characteristics that is provably verifiably random. You could have the selection of the winner of a particular pool and have that be done in a manner that you can say to your users, I am not involved in making this decision. It is done through a provable manner in which no party involved, whether it be the user, the dApp developer, miners or verifiers on the blockchain, or even the source of your randomness, none of them can tamper with this. So that's a second aspect. And the Keeper networks, in terms of building out more sophisticated automation infrastructure that you can outsource, is also using a similar manner of decentralized networks in which you can push a lot of your work to an outsourced firm, but not just a single firm. Usually it ends up being one organization responsible for it. In this case, you can have a number of different DevOps teams, all of them responsible for taking actions and monitoring your particular smart contracts and taking actions on them. And then as we continue to move in this direction, the Oracle networks are expanding to include cross-chain considerations. As we move more and more towards a multi-chain world, it's going to be important for there to be highly reliable communication between these networks. Lots of dApps have already started deploying on multiple blockchains, and they need to operate in a manner that's going to be secure across all of them. This, once again, requires complex infrastructure be built by each and every developer organizations and projects to make sure that it's being done correctly. And so that's another space we see the decentralized Oracle services moving forward with. And there's a number of others that are still in research. I'm not really able to talk to them at this time, but there are lots of opportunities in which we can help reduce trust and increase trust minimized computation. And keepers are really just a starting point for how you can do some trust minimized computation.
That's amazing. Thanks for that, Anush. I'm going to pause here real quick. As I mentioned at the beginning of the call, so this is an open style discussion. If anyone wants to add anything, have any comments, or if you have any questions, please feel free just to go ahead and toggle your mic so we can give you the floor. We talked about this a little bit, but I thought maybe we can dig a little bit deeper. So maybe you can talk about what is the Keeper network? And then maybe you can talk a little bit about how it sort of differentiates itself from like the price data feeds.
Sure. Chirag, do you want me to take this, or do you want to take a first stab at this?
Why don't you go ahead, and I'll feel free to add more.
Okay, that sounds good. So what we do with price feeds and data is more tuned towards providing consistent update information on chain, which is incredibly important for DeFi. But the Keeper network is not really focused on pulling data from off-chain, identifying the correct sources, verifying that there are no extremes within these sources of data, and providing an output and an output from the Oracle network as an input to these smart contracts that can then rely on this information. What the Keeper network is really doing is something I would say it's quite different from what we do for price feeds, and this is to enable smart contracts to have of key functions through the same set of DevOps teams. They are already very familiar with running the Chainlink node. They understand how Chainlink jobs work, and they know that the entire process by which they can monitor, verify everything's occurring correctly, and have entire Prometheus metrics and whatnot that they can use as a backend to validate that everything's working as expected. And what this does is provide trust minimized computation as it's essentially running the same code that you've written off chain and can be done by a distributed network of oracles. So as this network continues to expand, not only are we expanding the ways in which we can minimize trust, we're also expanding the total distributed compute infrastructure available for our users. So Chainlink Labs has already launched Keepers on Ethereum mainnet. We're already looking to expand that to other networks. And what this is helping do is help drastically reduce the cost of what applications do. It also, I would say, I've described it sometimes as like the internet of like 1995, right? We don't know exactly what all people are going to be able to do with this, but now that there is a way to easily integrate and set up your off-chain infrastructure without you having to deal with the actual infrastructure costs, the operational burden of running this, I see this as an opportunity for dApp developers to expand the kinds of things that they are willing to do. Some of the users we spoke with told us and these are very large DeFi projects, that they avoided some of these automation work because it takes a lot of work, and they could potentially provide more capabilities and more features if they had something like this. And now that they do, the Keeper network is just a method for you to perform all sorts of off-chain computation and then take actions on-chain, which means it's relatively generic in what you can do. Whereas the price feeds, it's about purpose-built streaming of data, or not streaming, but not streaming necessarily, but like providing data from off-chain to an on-chain source.
Right. Yeah, and one thing I would add is, speaking to many developers who are implementing Keepers today, one common pattern we see is that they are able to now focus more on the core business logic for their applications, etc., and not worry as much about the monotonous automation or DevOps related tasks that they were doing. So it really frees small teams of developers to go really do big things.
Yeah, good points. So next, want to talk about like where do you guys see how do you see automation evolving as the blockchain ecosystem grows and becomes more sophisticated?
Yeah, this is definitely an interesting one. So what we have today is like just a number of use cases in which people are already making use of Chainlink Keepers. Um, we already have users that are starting and stopping rounds using keepers, doing their rebasing, releasing locked assets, minting based on reserve increases, liquidating under collateralized loans, topping up addresses that are low at ETH balance, and many more that are already up and running today. And I think where we're going to see, and this is just my own personal view of what might happen. It's hard to predict these things, but once you have the capability to do it and it's easy, then a lot more creative things are going to occur. These projects that are being built out in crypto space are just there are people who come together, like 2 or 3 people, just think up an idea and say, "Hey, let's build this thing." And one of the problems they run into when they try to build this thing is, crap, I have to have some way to automate all this, and I can't. Well, let me just avoid that altogether. Well, now that that's no longer a barrier, and they can very easily get set up and running, they I don't think we can easily say where all it can go. It's the use case possibilities are essentially endless. We're just scratching the surface of what's possible, and over time, I anticipate we're gonna see Chainlink Keepers and automation infrastructure become a key part of how smart contracts automate and take actions in the future. So we're very early in the smart contract lifecycle and what they can do today. I anticipate with automation infrastructure in place and trust minimized off-chain compute, you're going to see drastically more sophisticated smart contracts over the next 2 years or so.
Yeah. No, exactly. I think well said, Anush. I think it's kind of a two-pronged benefit. One, it really allows you to spend more time on development by reducing or even eliminating some of your activities that you're doing on chain from an automation perspective. And then the second icing on the cake is it really unlocks this huge potential of off-chain capabilities that you can now bring that you were not able to bring previously because of some sort of gas fees limitations or what have you.
Sure, I completely missed that part of it. Yeah, it's having your team focus on what adds value for your applications will help unlock all sorts of new opportunities. That's a very good point.
Can you guys give us an indication, like where does the Chainlink Keepers fit into this picture, and like what are some of the ways you might use Chainlink Keepers? Maybe you could talk about like some different use cases.
Rog, you want to take this one?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, no, definitely. We can really talk about a few of the use cases we are seeing with our projects here. Even starting with you all with the 88 mph with the harvesting yield in the most optimal conditions. We have BZX who's automating trading strategies. We have Pool Together who is starting and stopping games at specific times. So that pretty much talks about the capability of keepers on triggering on-chain conditions when a certain time has occurred. Then again, we have many use cases around liquidation of under-collateralized loans, as well as automating user rewards. When certain conditions are met, certain rewards are unlocked and sent to the different users who could be, which could be in the NFT space, etc. Anush, anything I may have missed?
Oh, I mean, so ways in which you can use Chainlink Keepers is actually very interesting in that because it's so open-ended, you can essentially do anything in your Solidity code. We have some users that are even like they're using price feeds, randomness, automation, off-chain compute all in one. And I think as we expand more to more and more services, keepers will end up becoming a fairly standard model by which you would take actions. So as more and more services come into place, I anticipate that we're going to see these use cases that Chirag just mentioned to get more sophisticated and introduce things like so trading strategies can now use things like limit orders at relatively low costs. You can reliably inform that your user is going to get certain actions that'll happen on chain based on the conditions that are arbitrarily defined within your code. So it's a pretty wide open space of like what is currently being done and what I anticipate will happen more in the future.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Um, just getting a message. I'm not sure if you guys have any more time or not, or if you could stick around, but just let me know before I ask the next question. I know at the beginning of the call, you guys mentioned that you had a hard stop. So I just want to check with you guys.
Yeah, unfortunately, we do. This has been really, really amazing, but yeah, I think we do have to go to.
Yeah, no worries, guys. Not it. I mean, this has been absolutely awesome. I want to thank you guys. I know that we're going to continue on here, but this was amazing and a privilege to have you with us. We really hope that we'll have an opportunity to have you guys with us in the near future. And I recommend everyone listening just, go check out Chainlink, get on their Discord or Telegram, check out their Twitter, stay up to date with all the latest developments with the technology. And we're going to continue the conversation here. I'm going to ask McFly if he wants to talk a little bit about how these keepers are actually super beneficial for 88 MPH and how they are helping us. But thank you guys so much for coming on.
Of course.
Yep, thank you guys for having us here.
Yeah, of course. Thank you for having us, and we really enjoyed the conversation and chat today.
Thank you guys.
Thank you guys. Bye.
McFly, do you wanna just continue on that? I know that we were focusing on keepers. We were talking about different use cases. Maybe you can elaborate on some of the benefits at 88 MPH with this new integration.
Yep, sure. So I was mentioning earlier that we were looking for an automation tool to update the interest oracle at 18 MPH. Maybe just a step backward to see, just explain why we have interest oracle at 88 MPH. We are using them because we need a way to know what's going on the underlying protocol we are using for generating the yield for our users. As I said before, when you deposit on 88 MPH, you get a fixed yield rate. This fixed yield rate we are generating with the deposit of our users some variable rate on the underlying protocol we are using, like Compound and Aave, for example. So let's say you deposit Link on an Aave pool on 88 MPH to get the fixed yield rate. Your deposit will be directly deposited on Aave to generate a variable yield right there. So when you have this money flow, you need to know how much fixed yield rate you can offer to the end users. So for that reason, we have interest oracle that pull the variable yield rate from the Link money pool on Aave, for example, over a 30-day exponential moving average. So on average over the last month, we do an average of that. It's an exponential moving average of 30 days. And with that, we know that we can give, for example, a maximum of 75% of the value of a 30-day EMA. So if the 30-day EMA for Link on Aave is 10% on average, we will give 7.5% as a fixed yield rate to a depositor. So for this reason, it's like a really important piece in 88 MPH, those interest oracle, and we need to update them. So it's not magic. It's not working by itself. Someone need to update the interest oracle to just have an accurate data and be able to offer the most accurate fixed yield to our users. So all this process before was done manually. So that was really unfortunate and not scalable, and especially not really something where you can be like fully decentralized in a way, like decentralized and autonomous. So for this reason, we were looking for an automation tool like Keepers that is reliable, where there is like a good support because it's something really brand new. So you want to have like some premium support from a team to help you navigate this new technology. So with Chainlink team, it was really useful for us to have the support there from the technical team to be able just to understand how it works and also as it's brand new, just fixing some issue. Um, so we should Chainlink mainly for that reason because they are reliable. There is a big team, they know what they are doing, and also because there is this network of nodes that make things really more. How can I say that? Reliable. Just yeah. I think it's really important to have like something where you can trust the system you are using, and yeah, because as I said, the interest oracle are a really important piece into 88 MPH. So we wanted something that worked on day one. And yeah, so far like there is still some issue that we need to fix, but as I say, it's a brand new product, so it's an iterative process. So we are discovering things, we are learning from this process, and we are live since maybe the last 10 days with the Keeper integration. So we need to stabilize some stuff, but yeah, it's really interesting, and we will continue using it for the following month for sure, and looking forward for new product from Chainlink also. So yeah, to summarize that, why we are using Keepers is mainly for being able to get rid of the manual process. So it's a gain of time. It's also a gain in decentralization, in reliability, um, and all of that has a cost. Of course, it's not free, but it's really worth it to have this kind of helpful tool for our technical stack.
That's awesome. You explained that really well. Thanks for sharing that, McFly. Just going to pause here for a quick sec to see if we have any questions or comments from the audience before we move to the next segment of the call. So I'll just stop here real quick. Guys, feel free to jump in. We learned a lot today about all these different technologies and how they're integrated. Feel free to jump in.
Like, meanwhile, don't hesitate to cut me if you have a question.
Yeah.
But just wanted to mention that we are also using another product of Chainlink, but not directly in our smart contract architecture. It's more like a front-end integration where when before we were using CoinGecko API for just putting the price of the assets we are supporting, like the price of Link, for example. Um, it was just like for displaying a price somewhere in the front end. It's not really part of our business logic in the smart contracts. So for this reason, we are not integrating directly the price oracle in our smart contract, but just in the front end. But it's also a reliable tool to just pull the prices from somewhere. And it appears that it's more reliable than other tools. So for this reason, we are just using the price oracle of the price feeds of the Chainlink Rhino. Because before we are having some issue with other providers. So yeah, fairly happy with that new integration too.
Always new and exciting stuff happening at 88 MPH all the time. Doesn't look like anyone has any questions. McFly, was there anything that you wanted to update anyone on with regards to some of the latest developments before we head towards, I guess, the end of our call?
I just saw a question in like not directly related to Chainlink, but related to insurance protocol. Yeah, we are integrated with different insurance protocol. Right now, it's really a simple integration in the sense that there is no native insurance product inside 88 MPH. You need to go on Insurace, Insure, British Mutual to buy your coverage. So it's not yet done, but like from what I understood, they are working. All of them are working on a tool to offer native integration on third-party protocols. So that will be really interesting, especially for us, where you can basically make a deposit. Let's say you want to deposit $1 million into 88 MPH. You want some insurance for the smart contract risk. So you can buy in the same transaction a coverage on Insurace or Insure or Bridge Mutual, for example. So that will be really the next step for us in integrating other like third-party protocol offering insurance for your deposit, guys. Definitely waiting them to build some services to be able to connect directly with their products. But they are actively working on that. So yeah, it's just being patient, and we will have that soon.
I love the sound of that. I think that
Um,
that's just great. By the way, sorry to cut you off, but that's just amazing. I feel like that's something that everyone's gonna love. Just the ability to purchase insurance at the same time as your original deposit is phenomenal.
Yeah, and especially when you think that it will be fairly less expensive to do it when you are evolving on a multi-chain environment. It's really interesting to be able to merge different purchase in the same transaction, like bundling different services in the same transaction. It will be like really an improvement in term of user experience. Um, and yeah, like insurance products, especially financial products, are really something needed. So yeah, that's exciting. So the other news, guys, maybe you understood that we are moving fast. Deployment. I have really good news for you. Tomorrow, we'll be able to be probably testing end of my Friday. So in 24 hours from now, we'll probably being able to deploy on Polygon. That's the first one, and also on another chain, maybe tomorrow, but probably fairly more responsible to say Saturday or Sunday. We'll see what we can do there, but it will be fairly quick because we were doing the hard work first, preparing everything to be able to go multi-chain with Polygon. So Polygon was kind of a test, and it was the base where we were improving the deployment process to go multi-chain. So we started with Polygon because it was easy, and why not? But after that, like other multi-chain deployment will be really quick. So that's really interesting for us. And as you know, like the things evolve really quickly on the multi-chain. There is Phantom, there is Avalanche, there is Arbitrum. All of them are attracting massive amount of capital. So it's really interesting for us, especially with the product we are offering, where you get a fixed yield. So it's not crazy yield 400% on your capital, but it's more like a 2-5% on some assets. And for this kind of yield, you need a really low transaction cost. And all of that is provided by the chain where we will be. So really exciting by that. And it will probably fit more with our market offering in that sense. It makes more sense to pay a few cents for depositing and gaining and having some fixed yield rate than paying $200 on Ethereum mainnet to get your yield on 10K, for example. So yeah, all of that will fit more with the vision of 88 MPH. And the other good news is when someone deposits, there is also the counterpart of that is the yield token representing the fixed yield rate we are, the fixed yield we are offering to our depositors. And someone can fund that and be able to speculate on the variable yield rate of compound or other for that asset and make a lot of money or lose everything. So it's a speculative tool. You need to be bullish on the future variable rate to use this kind of product. So it's not a mainstream product. It's more like for people, yeah, who want to speculate basically. And sometimes the amount of yield token available for purchase are really low amount. It's kind of dust stuff. So it's a $10 or $100. So it doesn't make sense to buy that on mainnet. So going on Polygon, going on Phantom, Avalanche, and others will be really useful for providing a better user experience for the yield token. So also fairly excited by that. Um, we will release without incentives. So it's a test. We will just deploy the product. We will see how it goes. And after, of course, we will probably offer new incentives. But from day one, there won't be any MPH incentive there. It will be just a naked product. And after that, we will announce new stuff in the following weeks. But I think it's really a good move in a sense for us to really prove the point that there is a market fit for us on these other chains. And right now it's all like the craziness is all about like who will offer the best 2000% APY on your DAI or on your whatever asset you are bridging. It's definitely not sustainable, as we saw in the DeFi summer last year. So it's something that will fade quickly after like some weeks. And we are already seeing the consequence on all of that, like the fact that the capital is moving from one chain to another week after week. So it's definitely a trend that will fade, and after we will just keep and using the real products that there is out there, and the product that don't offer any added value, just a crazy API, won't last. So for us, we just want to wait that the dust settle, and after we will continue doing real business activity and plus trying to find incentives with our partners and also with the governance treasury and the protocol revenue. So all of that, just long-term vision, sustainable way of doing things, and not just surfing the next trendy stuff that don't last. So that's the vision. We are ready for that. That's the good news. We will extend the offer also in the different category of assets we will support on the multi-chain will be fairly limited to start with. But after we will try to expand, create new adapters and also partner with other protocol to create other stuff, especially interested by all the game fee. So everything that is play to earn things where NFT are used to represent in-game assets or stuff like that. We will definitely explore that with our partners. We won't build any games. It's just like providing the middleware for game developer to be able to offer a yield on their platform. So kind of acting like a bank for the metaverse is kind of a vision also for this low cost, high speed transaction universe we will be deploying. So yeah, I think I made the tour of what's going on currently. We will also publish probably in the following days. It's like we can name it like a report of what we found with CAD Labs. CAD Labs, it's a company offering services around digital twin development to stress test your system, to run simulation. I was mentioning that before, but I need to come back to them to see where they are at with the publication. Yeah, they will offer some analysis that we found regarding the insolvency risk of 88 MPH. All things work in different market conditions for the money market we are using. So we found a lot of interesting things. And the good news is 88 MPH is pretty well suited for any market conditions. So that's really a good news, especially with the role that play the yield token in all of that, and the way the interest rate will also play a role. It was really important for us to understand the different scenario and how things go in terms of insolvency risk. So yeah, we will share all of that transparently. We will probably also open source at some point the digital twin we build with them. Yeah, from there after we'll see what we can build, probably some dashboard, interesting metrics that we can share openly with everyone. We also, yesterday we were discussing with the team and you, Weeper, about some merge. So I found a really able person to produce some merge for us. So caps, key tag, different things like also like shirts and hoodies and stuff like that. So what we will do is offering some of them free for some users like the OGs, probably some raffles also, but we will also sell some of the merch on OpenSea as the NFT that you can redeem for the real products if you burn the NFT. So all of that probably will be ready mid-November because we still need to produce the merch. I'm validating the invoice this week, and we will be able to start the production next week. So after that, it will be everything shipped in France, and from there after shipping worldwide for you guys. And the sale of the NFT is just for covering the shipping cost. It is definitely not to make money. And of course, we will offer some free bundle for some of you guys. And yeah, so I think that's it, Reaper.
That's awesome. That's awesome. I love the fact that there's just so much happening down the roadmap. It's amazing. Thanks for that, McFly. I'm gonna pause real quick before we end the call to see if anyone wants to jump in. Okay, McFly, if you want to drop me a number between 1 and 50, that'd be great. Just in our private chat. I invite everyone to the general chat where we will run our end of the call raffle. Please go and put your number in once between 1 and 50. And the person that hits it or gets closest to will win today's raffle prize, which is $100 worth of MPH. So I will pause and give everyone approximately 30 seconds. So please put your numbers in now. "20 seconds, guys. Put your numbers in, 1 to 50. Okay, guys, we're closing, and it looks like we have a winner. And the winner is Spacemon X. Sorry, sorry. Actually, I made a mistake here. The winner's actually, sorry, you got your number in right towards the end. The winner is actually Jumanpag. Congratulations. All right, everyone. I'll check in with Josh to see what we'll be doing with the POAPs. I want to thank everyone for coming out today. Also want to give a huge shout out to the Chainlink team. Thanks for coming out and supporting. Thanks everyone in the 88 MPH community. Please stay involved, keep in touch, be active, and we want to wish everyone an absolute wonderful day. And we are looking forward to seeing you on the next call. Thanks for coming out, everyone.